An interface is used as a blueprint of behaviors for a class that is yet to be written. It is a mechanism for achieving abstraction, having only abstract methods that are defined but have no implementation, and variables. Interfaces help overcome the limitations of not being able to inherit multiple classes in Java. Remember, we talked about inheritance in the previous video, by allowing us to implement multiple interfaces. So defining an interface. This is inherently what an interface would look like. You can see our public interface shape and the different methods which are inside of the interface. Next, implementing interface. The class that implements the interface must provide an implementation for every abstract method defined in the interface being implemented. These are the abstract methods, the things that I've created arrows through. And if you want to implement the interface in a class, every method should be within that class. So you can see we have our double area, double diagonal, double longest edge, and double perimeter, just like we had up here. And of course, it's the triangle class is implementing shape. So again, pretty straightforward. Again, implementing an interface part 2. We can use the abstract nature of the shape interface to also make a rectangle class using different implementations for the abstract methods. So once again, public class rectangle implements shape. Public rectangle, this is just the thing that's needed. And then you have your abstract classes here again. So pretty straightforward. If you want to implement an interface, you have to have them include the abstract classes. And then default methods. Default methods allow us to add new methods to an interface that are automatically available in the implementation. If we add more default methods in the interface, we don't have to worry about implementing them in subclasses. So again, this is pretty straightforward. And lastly, interfaces inheritance. Interfaces can extend other interfaces, like how classes can extend other classes. However, interfaces can extend multiple interfaces, whereas classes can only extend one other class. A class that implements a derived interface must implement all of the members of the derived interface, including all of the members of the derived interface's base interface. So if you are extending one interface to another, and then you are, so like interface to an interface, and then you are creating a class using this interface, you also have to have stuff from this interface. Next, example of interface inheritance. The mammal interface extends the animal interface, so it inherits the eat method from the animal interface. A class that implements the mammal interface must implement both the eat and give birth methods. So as mentioned earlier, if there's a class that uses the mammal interface, it has to do both what's inside the animal and the mammal interface. Now, implementing a derived interface. Class dog implements mammal. The dog class implements the mammal interface, so it must implement both the eat and give birth methods. The dog class provides its own implementation of the eat and give birth methods. So again, pretty straightforward. What it's saying is that because the class dog implements both of these interfaces, it must do both of what it's having. So the eat from the animal class and the give birth from the mammal class. And then relationship between interfaces and classes. So a class can extend a class. A class can implement an interface, and an interface can extend an interface. So if they're both the same, you extend, and if it's a class to an interface, you're implementing. That's just the proper verbiage. And lastly, abstract classes. This is a type of restricted class that you cannot create an object from. Constructors are still permitted, unlike interfaces. You don't need abstract methods to have an abstract class. Normal methods with implementations can also be created. Java abstract class is used to provide a common method implementation to all the subclasses or to provide default implementation. Classes extending an abstract class must implement all abstract methods. You can only extend one abstract class. So what these are is just kind of the outline of how an abstract class works. So, sorry, the example is gone, but for example, we could create an abstract class called animal. So let's just assume we have our class animal. That defines the common properties and behaviors of all animals. Other classes, such as dog and cat, could then extend animal class and provide their own specific implementations. However, we would not want to instantiate animal, thus making it abstract. So other classes like class dog and cat, this is not how you properly do it, but I'm just doing it to give you an example. Remember, to actually create a class, you need to do this, but I'm not doing that because too much work. But anyway, if you are extending both of these animal into both of these classes, then they would need to have the properties and behaviors of all animals, but they can do it in their own implementations. Abstract classes with constructors. Example. So here's an example of an abstract class. Class counter, and then it has its own int value, and then it has a public counter, and then abstract int increment. And then here's a class that extends the abstract class. It can override, and then it has its own version of int increment, which returns plus plus value. Remember, all the way from the start when we talk about plus plus I versus I plus plus. And lastly, we have abstract classes versus interfaces. So an abstract class uses the abstract keyword, while interfaces use the interface keyword. Subclasses extends abstract class. Subclasses implements. So another import, like as mentioned earlier. Abstract class can have implemented methods and 0 or more abstract methods. Java 8 onwards, so this is a specific type of Java, interfaces can have default and static methods. We can extend only one abstract class, whereas we can implement multiple interfaces. So this was just a simple run through of enums, interfaces, and abstract classes, and I hope you learned something useful in today's video, and I hope you continue to watch the rest. Thank you, and see you in the next video.